Spring 1258 CE. The city of Baghdad burns beneath a blood-red sky. Smoke rises from the shattered domes of the Abbasid Caliphate, coiling upward like the ghosts of 1,000 libraries. Streets once filled with scholars and merchants now echo with the clang of Mongol steel and the wailing of the dying. The Tigris runs black ink from the drowned books of the House of Wisdom, mixing with blood and ash. Hulagu Khan watches from horseback as his army completes the slaughter. His expression is calm, almost detached, as if the end of an empire were a ritual he has performed 100 times before. Behind him, drums thunder in rhythm, with the hooves of his horsemen, a sound the world has learned to fear. From the plains of Central Asia to the mountains of Persia, cities have fallen one after another, their names erased by fire. When news of Baghdad's fall reaches Cairo, it travels like a chill wind through every mosque and marketplace. The Caliph is dead. The city of learning lies in ruins. And with the Mongols' banners now flying on the Euphrates, all of Islam holds its breath. In the citadel of Cairo, the Mamluk Sultan Saif ad-Din Qutuz stands before a council of his generals. His armor gleams beneath torchlight, his eyes shadowed by the weight of what he knows must come. Around him are men who were once slaves, warriors purchased as boys from the steppes and the Caucasus, trained from childhood in the arts of war, raised without fear. Now, for the first time, they face the masters of the steppes themselves. The Mongols think fear is a weapon, Qutuz says quietly. Then we shall show them men who have none. The council is silent. Outside, the night hums with tension, Cairo's streets alive with rumor and prayer. Merchants whisper that no army can stand against Hulagu's horsemen. Others swear that God will send a wind to scatter them. In the barracks, the Mamluks sharpen their blades, binding leather over calloused hands. They have heard the tales of catapults that hurl corpses, of towers burning under Mongol arrows, of cities where even the dogs were slain. But in these men, fear turns to fire. By the summer of 1259, Hulagu's western campaign has reached Syria. Aleppo falls, then Damascus, the ancient heart of the Levant. The Mongol general Kitbuka, a fierce Nestorian Christian and one of Hulagu's most ruthless commanders, leaves garrisons to hold the cities and turns his gaze south toward Egypt. The Nile lies ahead, and beyond it, the last unbroken kingdom of Islam. In Cairo, Qutuz receives an ultimatum. Mongol envoys arrive bearing a scroll sealed with Hulagu's mark. Submit to the great Khan or face annihilation. The court is silent as the message is read. The hall seems to tighten with every word, the arrogance of empire written in blood and certainty. The envoys kneel, waiting for Egypt's answer. Qutuz descends from his throne. His boots echo against the stone floor. He takes the parchment, studies the seal for a long moment, then tears it cleanly in half. If he wants Egypt, he says, let him come and take it. The envoys are seized and executed, their heads displayed on Cairo's gates. It is an act no ruler before him has dared. In that moment, Qutuz knows there is no turning back. The Mongols will come, and when they do, Egypt will meet them not with submission, but with steel. That night, as the muezzin's call to prayer rises over the city, the desert wind carries another sound, the beating of war drums from the citadel. The Mamluks are gathering. Armor flashes in torchlight, horses stamp in restless circles, and the first banners of the coming war unfurl against the darkness. Far to the north, in the plains beyond Damascus, Kitbuka prepares his army to march. Between them lies the Jezreel Valley green in spring, deadly in summer, a place the world will remember by a single name, Ain Jalut. Summer 1260. CE Cairo, the beating heart of the Nile. Dawn spills gold across the domes and minarets, but beneath that beauty, the city trembles. The merchants of Khan el-Khalili whisper of fire and retribution. of an army that leaves nothing living in its path. Mothers clutch their children as rumors swirl the Mongols have crossed into Syria. The sky itself will burn next. Yet within the walls of the citadel, fear finds no home. In the courtyard where sunlight glints off shields and spearheads, the Mamluk Sultan Saif ad-Din Qutuz walks among his soldiers. He is not born to nobility. Once, he was a captive torn from his homeland, sold as a slave, trained to obey. Now, he commands an empire. His voice carries over the clang of the forge, sharp as the steel being hammered into blades. Remember, he tells them, we were not born free, we earned our freedom, and now we fight to keep it. The men listen, eyes burning beneath their helmets. They are Circassians, Kipchaks, Georgians, once enemies, now brothers under the same banner. Each has been trained from childhood in the saddle, bow, and blade. Their bond is not of blood, but of shared struggle, a warrior fraternity bound by faith and fire. These are the Mamluks, soldiers who know no fear of death because they have already lived as slaves. In the war tents below the citadel, maps are unfurled across wooden tables. The Mongols are advancing through Syria, Kitbuka's forces, veterans of Baghdad, relentless and ruthless. Beside Qutuz stands his greatest general, Baybars al-Bundukdari, a man as fierce as the stallion he rides. His eyes, sharp and calculating, trace the paths across the Levant. He knows the Mongols, he has fought them before and lived. They rely on terror, Baybars says, his voice low. They break armies before the battle even begins. We will not give them that. Qutuz nods. Then we must become what they fear, a force that does not break. Preparations begin. Across Egypt, blacksmiths forge sabers and arrowheads. Couriers ride to call the tribes of Palestine and Syria to arms. The mosques fill with prayers. The scholars speak of jihad, not of conquest, but of survival. For if Egypt falls, there will be no refuge left between the desert and the sea. In the stables, war horses are brushed and fed dates soaked in honey. Drummers rehearse the rhythm of battle. Doom, 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 doom. The sound that will echo across the plains of Jezreel. Armorers fit lamellar plates to the chests of the Mamluks, polishing them until they catch the light like fire. One night, under a crescent moon, Qutuz gathers his commanders in secret. The torches flicker as he draws his sword, the steel reflecting their faces, each man knowing what it means. Tomorrow, Qutuz declares, we march for Syria. A murmur ripples through the tent, not of fear, but of resolve. Outside, the call to prayer mingles with the howl of the wind. Cairo is awake. Egypt is rising. At sunrise, the army moves out. 20,000 horsemen ride through the desert gates, banners of green and black streaming behind them, hooves pounding like thunder across the sand. Civilians climb rooftops to watch, some weeping, some silent, knowing many will not return. As the columns disappear into the horizon, the Nile glitters like a blade in the morning sun. The drums fade, the dust settles, and Cairo falls into an uneasy quiet. Days later, as they reach the borders of Palestine, scouts return with grim news. Kitbuka has left Damascus and rides south, confident that Egypt will fall as easily as Baghdad. His messengers have been seen along the caravan routes, spreading word that the Mongols will stable their horses in Cairo's mosques. In response, Qutuz orders a message of his own. Captured Mongol envoys are brought before him. He looks upon them without hatred, only cold certainty. Tell your master, he says, that the age of fear ends here. The envoys do not live to deliver it. Their heads are mounted on lances, carried before the Mamluk columns as a grim reminder that even the conquerors can bleed. As the army moves north through the hills of Galilee, the land changes. The fertile valleys stretch wide and green beneath the burning sun, the air thick with the scent of dust and sweat and iron. The Jezreel Valley lies ahead, a place of prophets, kings, and now destiny. There, the Lion of Egypt will meet the Wolf of the Steppes. And in that clash, the fate of the world will tremble. Early morning, September 3rd, 1260. The Jezreel Valley lies silent beneath a low, amber mist. The earth still holds the chill of night, and the wind carries the scent of trampled grass and horse sweat. Dew glistens on the tips of reeds where streams snake between low hills. To the west, the sun begins to rise over Mount Gilboa, its light cutting through fog like the first blade of the coming storm. Hidden among the folds of the valley are 10,000 Mamluk cavalry still as statues, waiting for the signal. The soft creak of saddle leather, the faint metallic whisper of armor shifting, the slow breath of war horses, every sound feels deafening in the hush before battle. In the center of a small ridge stands Baybars al-Bundukdari, his eyes narrowed against the dawn. His hand rests on the hilt of his sword, his other clutching the reins of his restless horse. Behind him, banners ripple gently in the breeze, green silk painted with the Shahada, the creed of faith. "Hold your ground," he murmurs to his lieutenants. "Do not move until they commit." Below, on the plains, a dust cloud grows on the horizon. The Mongols are coming. Their vanguard under Kitbuka Noyan rides at the front, banners of black and red fluttering from long lances. Each rider is clad in lamellar armor of hardened leather and steel, bows slung over their backs, curved sabers glinting. The earth trembles beneath thousands of hooves, the rhythm of empire rolling south. For years, the Mongols have conquered through terror. Cities fell not from force alone, but from fear, walls collapsing long before their first arrow struck. But this morning, there is no fear here. Only silence and the steady beat of hearts waiting to strike. Baybar signals with a raised gauntlet. The first Mamluk detachment, a decoy force, emerges onto the open plain. Sunlight flashes on their shields as they gallop forward, shouting the battle cry, "Allahu Akbar." The Mongols, seeing what appears to be a reckless charge, react as expected with confidence born of countless victories. Kitbuka orders his archers to advance and loose. The sky darkens with arrows, hissing like a storm of locusts. Several Mamluks fall, their horses screaming, but the rest hold formation, loosing volleys of their own with deadly precision. Then, suddenly as if panic has struck them, the Mamluk front line begins to retreat. They turn their horses and flee toward the hills, their banners trailing like torn leaves. Kitbuka's lips curl into a thin smile. He has seen this before. Enemies break, and the Mongols pursue. He raises his arm, gives the signal, and his cavalry surges forward, the valley shaking with the force of pursuit. But this time, the prey is waiting. As the Mongols thunder into the narrow gorge of Ain Jalut, the sound of hooves echoes off stone walls. The terrain tightens, the open plain collapses into a funnel of hills and scrub. The Mongols slow slightly, wary now, their formation narrowing. Kitbuka's second wave follows close behind, pressing them inward. Then, from the ridges above, the trap snaps shut. Trumpets blast through the valley, deep, metallic, echoing off the cliffs. Drums pound like thunder, and the hills erupt with life. Thousands of hidden Mamluks surge from concealment, descending like a tide of steel and fury. Arrows rain down, striking from all sides. The Mongols wheel their horses, shocked, their ranks colliding in chaos. Baybars charges from the flank, sword raised high. His voice cuts through the din. "Now! Strike them down! For Egypt!" The two tides crash together, Mongol discipline against Mamluk precision. Horses rear, blades flash, dust blinds the air. The metallic clang of sabers mixes with the screams of men and beasts. In moments, the mist turns red. From the rear, Kitbuka rallies his men with ferocious pride. His banner, a black wolf's head on crimson, rises above the chaos. "Hold!" he roars, his voice carrying across the field. "You are the sons of Genghis Khan." His warriors respond with a roar, reforming into tight circles, firing in every direction. Arrows whistle past Baybars, striking his horse's flank, but the animal does not falter. The Mamluk general rides through the smoke, cutting down one rider, then another, his blade slick with sweat and blood. For an hour, the valley becomes a cauldron of death. Neither side gives ground. The Mongols press forward with desperate fury. The Mamluks bend but do not break. In the distance, Qutuz watches from his reserve line, waiting, watching, knowing that timing is everything. When he sees the Mongols begin to overextend, their center thinning, he lowers his sword, the signal the entire army has waited for. "Now," he whispers, "now we end the fear." The reserve lines move. A wall of cavalry begins to roll forward, sunlight flashing from their curved blades. The desert roars back to life. The ground shakes beneath the thunder of hooves. From behind the ridge, Qutuz's reserve explodes into the valley, a torrent of men and horses moving as one living creature. Their armor flashes like mirrors beneath the noon sun, banners of green and black streaming against a sky now thick with dust. The air hums with the roar of thousands shouting one cry, "Wa Islama," for Islam. Qutuz rides at their head, cloak whipping in the wind, his sword raised high. His horse charges straight through the haze, foam flying from its mouth, eyes wild with battle fury. The Mamluks, who moments earlier seemed to falter, now turn with him, their retreat transforming into a crushing counterattack. Baybars, blood on his cheek and fury in his voice, wheels his cavalry to strike from the flank. Kitbuka's vanguard finds itself caught between hammer and anvil Mamluks, closing from every side. The air is a blur of dust, arrows, and screams. Men vanish in flashes of steel. Horses rear, collapsing under the weight of armor and wounds. Through the chaos, Kitbuka stands defiant, shouting commands in the tongue of the steppes. His curved sword carves arcs of silver through the dust. "Hold the line," he bellows. "You fight for the sons of Genghis Khan." His banner still flies, a black wolf's head snapping in the wind, but the circle around it grows smaller with each minute. The Mongol discipline is legendary riders firing even as they retreat, wheeling in deadly rhythm. But this time, their arrows find no frightened rabble. Every Mamluk counter volley is measured, precise. Their horses move with uncanny agility, bred for centuries to dance across desert terrain. And for every Mongol who fires, 3 Mamluks close the distance. Dust stings the eyes, the sun glares like a blade, the valley resounds with the clang of iron and the thunder of hooves striking packed earth. The sound is no longer music of conquest, it is the rhythm of desperation. At the center of the melee, Qutuz breaks through to the heart of the Mongol line. His armor is streaked with sweat and dirt, the white plume of his helmet now darkened with grime. He stands in his stirrups and shouts until his voice cracks. "Strike them! Strike them down! The world watches you." His men answer with fire in their lungs. The Mamluks surge forward, blades flashing like lightning beneath the sun. The Mongols, trapped, fight to the last, their curved sabers clashing against the straight-edged swords of their foes. The air smells of blood and hot iron. Somewhere amid the chaos, a Mamluk lancer thrusts his spear through Kitbuka's horse. The animal collapses, screaming. Kitbuka hits the ground hard, rising to his knees, sword still in hand. Surrounded, he looks up to see the Lion of Egypt before him, Qutuz dismounted, face set in iron resolve. For a heartbeat, the world falls silent. Only wind and the beating of wings overhead. Kitbuka spits blood and says in a hoarse voice, "You think you have won, slave of slaves, but we do not fear death." Qutuz answers quietly, "Then you will meet it with honor." The The Mongol general's sword falls from his hand. A Mamluk blade flashes, and the man who had carried terror across continents falls in the dust of Ain Jalut. When the Mongol standard collapses, it is as if a storm has broken. Across the valley, cries of victory rise like thunder. The surviving Mongols, stunned and leaderless, begin to flee northward, but the Mamluk cavalry gives no quarter. Arrows chase them across the plain. Sabers catch them before they reach the passes. The sun dips westward, turning the battlefield into a sea of shadow and fire. As the fighting ebbs, the silence feels unreal. The Jezreel Valley, once green and living, now lies carpeted with armor, bodies, and broken banners. The Mongols, the riders of apocalypse, have been stopped. For the first time in living memory, their advance has been turned back by mortal hands. Kutuz rides slowly among the fallen, his face unreadable. Around him, his soldiers bow their heads, whispering prayers amid the smoke. Baybars approaches, dust-caked and limping, but alive. "It is done," he says. Kutuz looks toward the horizon, where the sun bleeds into the hills. "No," he murmurs. "It has only begun." The valley is still. The empire of fear has cracked, but its echo will linger across the sands for generations. Evening settles over the Valley of Ain Jalut. The air is thick with dust and smoke, the scent of blood mingling with the sweet decay of crushed grass beneath thousands of hooves. The last cries of battle fade into silence, replaced only by the low moan of the wind sweeping across the Jezreel plain. Where morning saw the proud banners of the Mongols, now only torn cloth and broken spears remain. Kutuz dismounts, walking slowly among the fallen. His boots press into earth darkened by death. Around him, the Mamluks move like shadows binding wounds, gathering their dead, whispering the takbir. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Their voices rise softly at first, then louder, filling the valley with a sound that feels more like prayer than triumph. For the first time in decades, an army has stood before the Mongols and lived. The impossible has been done. Baybars approaches, his armor dented and splattered, one hand pressed to his side where a blade grazed him. His eyes are tired, but in them burns the fire of vindication. He looks over the field, the strewn Mongol corpses, the captured horses, the shattered arrows. "We broke the wolf's teeth," he says. Kutuz nods, and with it, the fear that ruled men's hearts. They both fall silent, watching as the sun dips low, setting the battlefield aflame in gold and crimson. Somewhere in the distance, crows begin to circle. When word of the victory reaches Cairo, the city erupts in disbelief. The Mongols, the scourge of the earth, the sons of Genghis defeated. Mosques ring with the call to prayer, and merchants embrace in the streets. For the first time since Baghdad fell, hope returns to the Islamic world. But for Kutuz, there is no celebration, not yet. He knows Hulagu Khan still commands vast armies beyond the Euphrates. Ain Jalut is not the end of the Mongol Empire, only the first crack in its armor. Yet, it is enough. It proves that no force, however vast, is invincible. That courage and faith, wielded with discipline, can stand against the storm. In the following days, Kitbuka's head is sent to Cairo, displayed upon the gates where once the Mongol envoys met their fate. Crowds gather to see it, but Kutuz refuses to attend. He is not a man of spectacle. In the quiet of his tent, he writes letters to the rulers of the Muslim world, to Aleppo, Damascus, even far Baghdad, urging unity, warning that division will bring ruin once more. Outside, the Mamluk soldiers sit by their campfires, silent and proud. The horses graze beside the stream that gave the valley its name, Ain Jalut, the spring of Goliath. Some speak of destiny, of how David once struck down a giant in this very land, and now Egypt has done the same. That night, Kutuz walks alone to the edge of the valley. The moon hangs full above the hills, silver light washing over the wreckage of battle. He kneels beside a fallen Mamluk, a boy no older than 17, and closes the youth's eyes. "You did not die for a throne," he whispers, "but for the right to stand unafraid." The wind stirs, carrying with it the faint echo of drums, not of war, but of memory. The fear that once swept from the steppes to the sea has met its end here, among the stones and blood of Palestine. When dawn comes, the army marches home. The banners of the Mamluks rise over the horizon, fluttering against the golden light. Behind them, Ain Jalut lies quiet, a scar upon the earth, and a testament to what men can do when faith outweighs fear. From that day forward, the Mongols would never again set foot in Egypt. The tide of conquest had met the desert and broken upon it. And across the centuries, historians would look back on that single battle a day when slaves became saviors, when courage defied destiny, and remember that even empires built on terror can bleed.